Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary here for the Geek Pride cast on this Sunday evening. With me tonight, we have the usual faces and a special guest. So first up, we have Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
We have Mark Canty.
Hello.
And our special guest tonight, author Saara El-Arifi.
Hi, everyone.
Right, Saara. So who are you? What do you do? Tell us about yourself.
Who am I? Gosh, what a big question. Hi, everyone. I'm Saara. I am an author. My debut book, which is an adult epic fantasy, is out in June, 23rd of June, available to pre-order. And it's a super dark, but I want to say fun book that explores all sorts of themes: blood magic, empire, queerness, colonization. It is fun, I promise. So that's out in June, and I am so happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I mean, I think we first met at FantasyCon in, I think it was November last year, and you gave a really powerful and interesting talk on race and writing race and fantasy. And I mean just when you're saying like you're nervous when you're writing white characters, because I am terrified when I'm writing anyone that's a person of color, thinking, am I writing this correctly and honestly and respectfully? So it's just like to see the opposite is equally true.
It's interesting because I remember that talk, and I remember saying to the audience, like, I'm sure a lot of you are really terrified. And I remember clear as day in your face, looking at me, and you're like, I'm terrified of writing black characters. And it's true, like, I understand that fear. For me, it's not necessarily around writing white characters, because I think it's to do with a special kind of pain. So I certainly have the fear when it comes to writing trans characters or writing experiences that are not my own. And I think that fear is so important. Like, that to have that fear means that fundamentally you are going to do the best job that you can. It's the people who don't have the fear and have the complete arrogance to just, write these stories without really thinking about them. That's when you get into problems. And the thing is, like, fundamentally, this is my opinion on it, right? I don't speak for the black community, the Arab community, the female community. I do not speak on those fronts as the one, person. But this is kind of my take on it. And I think fear in this occasion is a really good thing, particularly like for me when it came to writing trans characters. It was really important to me that everyone had a voice in my book. And trans and actually disabled characters, both I did a lot of work on. And one of the things that I just always say to people is like, pay people for that consultancy. Sit down, £100 an hour if you want a figure, and have a conversation and learn from them and get that kind of understanding and experience. And don't just go to your trans friends or your black friends and ask them to read your book for, be a sensitivity reader, because there are sensitivity readers out there. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it, I guess.
So how, like, this is your first book. So what was it you did beforehand? So what got you to this point that said, you know what, I'm going to write an epic fantasy book? What brought you here?
Yeah, a lot of tears. I ask myself every day why. No, I do love it. My background is actually. So I started in theatre, and as my dream was to be a theatre director, and I always wrote ever since like my first novel. I think I was 7 or 8, and it was 50 pages long. So I've always written. I've written scripts. I kind of moved from theatre to film and ended up looking into doing marketing, which was something that I was really enjoying. Did that for about 10 years, 11 years. Still writing. I peddled out one really, really honestly, like, this book was a turd. Like, it was so bad, and I kept peddling it out to agents, being like, please, I'm really good. And honestly, like, the book was it stings even more now saying this sentence, but it was just a version of Harry Potter. There was a white male protagonist. There was a school. He was a chosen one. It was, you know, everything that you'd expect. Someone who has been absorbed in the fantasy and sci-fi world as a kid and growing up in this, you know, I was obsessed. I was reading epic adult fantasy from the age of 11. I was consuming, like, one of my earliest books was, you know, Lord of the Rings. Like, I loved epic fantasy. But because all the characters were white and male, I thought, well, that's what they got to be. So that's what I did. And it was just not authentic, and it was also, frankly, terrible. And I do really believe that you can get better as a writer. I like to think that's what I did, because I did eventually sell a book. I was really lucky to sign with Juliet Mushins within, I think, like a couple of weeks of finishing the manuscript. I wrote it, the final Strife, I wrote it over 6 months. And then with Juliet, we kind of had this crazy 4 days where we edited over a weekend. I wrote an extra like 8,000 words. I didn't really sleep. We went out on submission a week later, got a preempt in the US, which was amazing. Literally, there's a photo of me crying on the floor. It was very dramatic. And then an auction in the UK. And literally the next thing I did was ring my boss and be like, see ya. I don't need this stuff anymore. Which was great. So that's the story in a nutshell. It was wild, but I am so lucky and thankful for it every day.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about the new book? Sort of, obviously, just a synopsis. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the empire, the Warden's empire, is all ruled by blood. It's kind of the currency of the social order, but it's also the magic system. And there are 3 blood colours: red, blue, and clear. And the story follows 3 women. One is a rebel turned junkie. So yes, this is not for children. One is a servant and a spy. And one is masquerading as one of the Warden's daughters. So essentially, the plot is all kind of situated around this Actibar trials, which is kind of the competition where the next rulers are chosen. And, you know, who's going to be the next ruler? I'm not going to tell you. You've got to read the book. But it's just a big, sprawling, epic fantasy, and it sets up. There's loads of twists, because I love a twist. And if I can get people having, like, if people have no idea where the twist is coming from, that is, for me, it's like, I don't care if you hated the book, but you had no idea about the twist. That for me is a win, you know. So there's lots of twists, and like I said, it's epic, it's queer, it's fun, it's dark. But yeah, it's got everything, you know, betrayal, love, drugs, drink, and a lot of fighting.
I like that. I think this is the only time I've ever heard a book called both dark and fun. How did you kind of get those two disparate elements together?
Well, okay, so the clear blood color kind of caste system is it's, when I say it's dark, it's really dark in that they when they're 2 months old, every baby that's born with clear blood have their tongues and hands amputated, and which is actually based on what King Leopold II did in the Congo, if you want to read up on that.
Yep.
And so super dark. But then on the kind of flip side, it is kind of hilarious just seeing this rebel turned junkie trying to pretend that she's not the chosen one. And I really love flipping tropes on their head. So I do kind of lean into, you think this person's the chosen one and she's just not. And that was really fun for me. So it is fun, but again, dark.
Yeah. Did you ever have any kind of struggles to kind of balance the two? Because I mean, like, when they kind of interact with each other, and imagine it can become a bit somewhat disconcerting when you're thinking this is really horrific, but also funny.
Yes, I would say it's not a comedy.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy. Don't go to this, you know, if you're reading your cozy Richard Osman, like, murder mysteries, this is not one for you. It is dark. But at the same time, I try and find a lightness in it, because I think there is you've got to find hope in these dark things. And I've taken elements of colonialism, which is really dark, and lots and lots of elements of history, and tried to shine a light on them, pull them into a parallel universe, but also gone, there is hope. There is hope and laughter here.
So it's not going to be a sort of George R.R. Martin, here's a character who you belovedly love, and I'm just going to kill him indiscriminately.
No. There'll be no red weddings. There'll be no red weddings. No, God, every time I just didn't want to turn a page when I was reading that series. It's like, who's going to die next? No, you won't get that from me.
Thing is, like, I'm very...
Wait till book 2.
Well, you see, this is it. See, I say this, but I've never been so distraught yet encapsulated. Is that the word? Would that be the word? Just captivated. That's it. Engrossed or captivated, yeah, by a book than when it came to that. People dying, who you love, and you're just like, oh my God, what the hell has just happened? And it's like, it's actually changed me slightly, I think. So, because I grew up in Lord of the Rings, characters die, but it's sort of, you kind of know what's going to happen. You've got that you know what's going to happen. Now, you jump into Silmarillion and stuff like that, and it gets a lot more messed up, just sort of, it's completely batshit sometimes, but generally, like The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings are safe spaces. It's like, you kind of know the light's going to sort of the free peoples are going to win and stuff, and then you sort of kind of jump into Game of Thrones and stuff like that, and you're like, you're just like, what the hell is this happening? And I remember very specifically, my sister and my father had read the books before me, and I started reading them late, and it was just because they filmed Game of Thrones in Northern Ireland, basically in my backyard. Like, loads of people sort of from Northern Ireland played like parts. Loads of friends played it. There's a place called Red Hall in where I am. The wall's like 5 minutes down from my parents' house and stuff. But there's like, Sean Bean, who's one of my favorite sort of actors of all time, is going to be in this new series called Game of Thrones and stuff, and it's some books, and I was like, all right, I'll give the books a whirl before the series comes out, and I started reading it, and I just remember third book, and I was like, it was amazing. I was upset that Eddard Stark had died and stuff, because I was like, oh no, Sean Bean's character's going to die, but he always
if we didn't see that.
He always dies, so it's okay. But then it's like, I was like, Robb, he's a good character. We're like Robb Stark, he's he's king of the North, and then it's like, and then you're just like Red Wedding, and I'm like getting to that point where I'm like, no, my sister and my dad are just looking at me as I'm reading these last pages.
Popcorn.
And like literally just page by page. And I got to the point where I was like, God damn it. And I just sort of I was like, oh, what have they just done? They just killed him. And then they've killed his mother. And then like a few chapters later, Bran apparently is dead. And you're like, and then I was like, and I got through the entire series of books within 2 weeks. I hammered them. Literally, I was on holiday and I just read them, read. And I got to Jon Snow dying. And I literally threw the book down and went, I'm not reading any more of these books.
Yeah, I remember that feeling. But I tell you what, there's nothing, even though you felt so captivated by this, there is no better feeling than being the author on the other side, killing off those characters. The power, I'm telling you, it is like the best drug. It's like, I'm gonna kill you all. You just feel your reader's pain, and it just fuels you in a very special way.
I sustain myself on your tears.
You are a very evil person, you know that.
But do you find that's an interesting point, because like I don't write, but like when I'm doing stuff for our D&D campaign and the small paltry bits of writing I do, I find it very hard. If I've built up a character, I can barely kill these guys in D&D. Let these guys' characters, like, I find it hard to let them die, let alone characters who I've created myself.
I don't know. I don't know. There's something really just satisfying about knowing that you're going to make someone cry. There's one death. There's one death in the second book. Honestly, there's one death in the second book that I was just like,
oh,
you're all gonna hate this.
Oh no!
That was just, it is just really fun. It is like, it was really sad. Like, I was like, oh, like, they're gone. I can't write about them anymore, because it was so much fun to write about them. But the overriding feeling was just joy of how much pain I was going to give other people.
Well, see, the thing is, I do like in my films as well. I've now got to a point where things have to be, as much as I like the odd sort of kind of like happy ending sort of thing. I love a twist. I love when things just don't happen the way you expect them. I've just finished sort of the Joe Abercrombie First Law trilogy. I've just finished. I'm on the third.
Yeah.
I'm on the heroes at the minute from the standalone ones in the middle, and the first trilogy, because my boss got me onto them, and it's just like everything that you sort of kind of have in your head that's going to happen, or you should happen, because you think, this guy's the hero and this guy's a good guy and this guy's going to none of that happens, and like all this batshit crazy stuff happens, and you're just like, I don't even know how to deal with this situation, but I love that. It makes you feel, because I think
it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do as a writer, because you're just stuck in these tropes, and you're like, and you have to really fight against it to be like, oh, actually no, the cavalry shouldn't just come at the last minute. There's just like some certain tropes that are so ingrained in your blood that you have to like really fight against them to just shock people, I think. Is
there a specific trope that you've really struggled to sort of kind of overcome, or have you literally just gone into this book and gone, I'm gonna dash them to pieces? And
I think it's really hard to write a book without tropes that just happen, like friends to lovers or enemies to lovers, or even having trials, right? Having kind of a competition in itself as a trope. I try to subvert it in certain ways, but I think the thing is, like, I try, and if it fits the story, actually, because there is some comfort in tropes for people, when they're like, okay, I can see that person's a bad guy, but I never try and have like just villains or just heroes. It is generally tough, and I think friends to lovers for me was a trope that I quite liked, and I wanted to show that there was some happiness in this world as well, even though who knows who's going to survive in the second book.
Please don't say that.
No one, given the sounds of it.
Whoever would have seen that coming? I mean, with the dark humor side of things, I'm surprised that you got breakthrough in America, because first, as you said, because it seems like Americans have issues sometimes dealing with how British dark humor comes across, if that makes sense.
Let me tell you, I'm more shocked than anyone that I'm being published in the US. And I'm really grateful. And it was, it was within 48 hours or 24 hours that they preempted, and it was incredible. And it was, biggest moment of my life, whatever. But I was like, this book has no white people in. This book is not, you could not put it, you couldn't even compare it to anyone. I think in our pitch, we ended up saying it was somewhere between N.K. Jemisin and Patrick Rothfuss, but it's not really, even think about those two names, you can't put them in a sentence. They're so different from each other. And I think, now that I'm in the world a bit more, I know that there are so many more fabulous Black authors that I just hadn't heard about. They just hasn't necessarily been given the marketing. But anyway, the US did take a bet on me, which was fantastic. And I also want to say that they took a bet on me when the book was 80,000 words, and it is now 170,000 words. So the book has evolved a lot during the edit process. So I can't even remember what was in that draft that they bought. They seem to get some of the jokes, I guess. But yeah, it translated, and I'm just really lucky that they were kind of, my editor Trisha Nalwani was behind me straight away. Yeah.
I've just had a comment from CC Adams. Hey CC.
Hi.
one of the tropes I love in horror is who's going to survive? It's open season on any and everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I remember something Richard Morgan once said, that when he released Black Man in the UK, it was retitled in America as Variant 13. Because the whole concept of trying to sell a story about the protagonist as a black man, with a and called Black Man, did not go down well apparently with certain demographics in the UK. So I'm really impressed that the change in the past 15 years.
Oh, I'd say the change in the last 12 months. It was. I don't think that I necessarily would. Well, no, I know I wouldn't have been published in the way that I have been, having two massive houses behind me, with an incredible, agent. I think she's top of publishing Market House.
Yeah, Judy Michins is great.
Legend. I wouldn't even say 2 years ago that would have happened. And to have, my US cover with a black woman, you look at my US cover, you don't go, that's adult epic fantasy. And it is. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm super lucky.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. I'm really looking forward to reading because it just sounds absolutely amazing. And I like the fact that you're kind of usurping tropes and kind of spin them on your heads. Because I mean, far too often you're reading something, you just think like, yeah, I knew that was coming. That was going to happen. Like everyone survives at the end. No. It's very rare when there's always a price. There has to be a price.
Yeah.
Would you say that? How do I put this? To write a book where everybody is of color, or even sort of using different sort of sexual orientations and things, is a way of normalizing that sort of thing, because obviously, like you said, the trope is a bunch of white dudes battling evil and winning, or a bunch of white dudes sort of kind of fucking each other over and stuff. Do you feel that maybe the reason that is so prevalent is because nobody sort of really takes that sort of jump to normalize color and sexuality?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, because it's a risk, right? We said from the very beginning, like there's this fear. There's this fear about doing stuff that you don't know, and it's a good fear, but it's also just sad that no one's willing to take that risk, particularly in this climate where everyone has this fear of being cancelled and etc. And I think it's just so important. I just think for me, writing about having one of my protagonists being trans was so important, and it was a no-brainer. She came to be trans, and that's who she was. Even including things like a third gender, which wasn't easy. It was a lot of work, looking into gender theory, understanding it, researching things like North African tribes where third gender had always been around. It's so important, but I think people aren't necessarily always willing to break down those barriers, and they write what they know, and which is why you have this circle of fantastic writers. I'm not saying that they're not, but a particular type of breed of epic fantasy writers. And there's also this tendency with women to push them into the YA box. That's a young adult box, because she's a woman, so the story isn't necessarily epic fantasy, which you just wouldn't get if I was a man at all. You'd be like, oh yeah, okay, there's sex, drugs, and alcohol. Yeah, so this is adults. So it's very a different, it's a different playing field for them. I wish more people did it.
Yeah. Did you experience any kind of encouragement to go to be YA?
No, I would say that there is a certain market of YA adult crossover, which I think will happen within my marketing, because they find success in that area. But from the very beginning, from the very first edit calls, I was like, this is adult. And you read this, you know, if you even see on Amazon has actually classified my book as contemporary horror.
Right, wow.
Just from the keywords within it. Just because of the keywords within it. So, you know, I'm talking about an entire race of people who've had their tongues and hands chopped off. It's not for kids. It's not for teenagers, really. So there, I as a woman, people assume, and that's quite a sad thing. People just assume, oh, you write YA. YA is a fantastic and a very difficult genre. I wish I could write YA. But, you know, this just isn't YA. And I think there
YA
is just
being
this tendency to...
YA for an
young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when last term, my daughter, who's 13 now, she was doing dystopian fiction in English, and they were reading The Road.
Oh man, that's the most depressing book.
And
ever.
I was just like, even I can't read
There's no joy in that. It's literally, I think the best bit is when they sort of kind of find, like I remember watching the film as well, and they said the only joy in this film is when they find that bunker and they're eating the canned food, and that's it. It's literally, that's the only sort of happiness in that film.
I thought you were going to say the end credits.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the end credits. Yeah, I suppose. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, but it's still,
joy there.
Yeah, it's still pretty. It's pretty bleak. You know, I watched that film, and I've read the book afterwards actually, but I watched that film and I came out going, that was an amazing film that I never want to watch again. I was like, I love it, but I'm not going to watch it again because it was so depressing. I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, that reminds me of Requiem for a Dream. Incredibly powerful film. Not watching it again. But yeah, one thing I found as well is like what you said about darkness and humor. If you have too much darkness, it becomes unrelenting and sort of hard for the reader to keep going. I mean, I think back to like The Walking Dead, the TV series, and that was just like misery porn. There was no kind of, you know, moment of light.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so distracted by Mark's cat. It is so cute.
Sorry, this is Tally. Her brother's downstairs with his mum for Rex. Yes, I'm a Mass Effect fan.
Oh my god.
She's the one that likes to eat cables.
Everybody who's listening, Mark is doing his Dr. No impression with cat.
But the negative Dr. No, because I'm a black
Dr. No. I have a ginger and white cat called Jeffrey, and he's an asshole, just like my dog. They're both assholes.
We learn from each other. Given the nature of writing, I assume you've already working on or even finished book 2?
Yeah, book 2 is with my editors at the moment for review. So we'll wait for those edit notes. And book 3 is about a third of the way done. So, yeah.
So that actually leads on to another, because I think every author that we've had on here, we sort of kind of asked the sort of same question about writing processes, and you have ones who I can't remember the name of them, but they had like a spreadsheet and they were sort of kind of they broke it down.
Planners and pantsers.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you just kind of let it go, just see what happens? I think you have some who literally the character sort of writes itself and you just see where it goes, or do you have a plan, a start, a middle, and an end that you sort of adhere to?
No plans at all. So when I sold my first book, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but anyway, I will. When I sold my first book, I had to provide a synopsis of book 2 and 3 to get a deal, like a trilogy deal. And Juliet was like, you've got what book 2 and 3 are. I was like, yeah, of course I do. Yeah, fine. Put down the phone. I was like running around the house, like, what am I gonna write? And then proceeded to spend about 9 hours writing 3 sentences. I was like, this is book 2 and this is book 3. I looked at those sentences the other day. I was like, that is not what happens at all. So no, I have. It's actually ridiculously how out of control my writing is. I will be writing, and for example, a character had a glove on, and I had no idea why this character had a glove on. This is a bit of a spoiler, but I'm sure you'll forget for book 2. Anyway, this character has a glove on for 3 or 4 chapters, and I kept saying to myself, like, why has he got one glove on? Like, one glove. And it gets to this scene, and he takes off his glove, and the glove is his hand is entirely made out of plants. And I was like, oh my God, I had no idea that was going to happen. I had no idea. And it's just surreal that my brain was prepared for that plot point, and I had no idea. I was just like, I'm just on a journey with the rest of you. So yeah, no, it's all just see what comes out the fingertips. Really.
It reminds me of some of. Oh, sorry, Pete.
Who's going to go?
You are.
Okay, right. There's a certain expectation from publishers about like they know what they want, and sometimes they will ask for like a breakdown in advance of the story. Is that something you've encountered? And how did you get around it?
How did I get around it? I actually just wrote the book. So I just wrote it before they needed anything else. So I knew I had quite quick turnarounds because we've got a book a year for the next 3 years, but then we'll have hardback and paperback. So it's technically 2 books a year for the next 4 years. So I knew I'm on the wheel now, and I've just got to get it out. So in a break between editing book 1, I just sat down over like 4 weeks and just wrote book 2 and edited it with Juliet. So rather than even having to do the chapter breakdown or anything like that, I had the book, so I didn't have to do that. So although I did deliver late, I just delivered it. So yeah, I was lucky there.
What about you, sir? Your editing? Does your editor brutalize your beautiful work, or how do you take it when they do?
So I thought editing before I was in publishing. I genuinely, this is embarrassing, but I actually thought editing was the editors will come in and make it better. In that they would actually just amend the script. Like you would send them the manuscript, and they would send it back better. That was just all that I thought happened. But actually what editing is asking questions that you don't have answers to. So my normal kind of process is that I'll get my edit letter, which is very long. I cry, and then I'm like, I can't do this. I have a massive downward spiral of like, how am I ever going to be able to do this? I can't do this. And then I go to sleep, and then I wake up and I go, okay, it's time to edit. And this is the process every single time. And then I go, okay, I can edit. And then I just set a schedule of like, you have to do so many chapters a day. And if I don't have a schedule, I'll just be on the PlayStation all day. So I have to have a schedule. So I'm like, you have to do this. And yeah, so I just like turn it around normally in 5-6 weeks.
What's been your worst edit? Like, has there been one where that's come back and you've gone, yeah, I can't do this. This is gonna ruin everything.
So I also have a kind of policy on that. So, and I also recommend, would-be writers or writers working with editors to do this, because I think it's such a good piece of feedback, is that anything you disagree with, anything that you get like this knee-jerk reaction, like, no, you're wrong, you're ruining my creativity, like, I'm the author. If you get any of those feelings, shut them down. Just go, don't change the manuscript, don't do anything, sleep on it, or step away from that particular point for a day or 2. And if you then go back to it and you feel really angry, try it out, make a different draft, try it out, and if it works, keep that draft. If it doesn't, bin it. And I'll tell you, like 99% of the time, the editor, 99.9% of the time, your editor is right. And I'm lucky in that I trust both my editors. I've got Natasha Varden in the UK and Trish Nawani in the US with Del Rey. And I trust them completely. So I will just do what they say. And the book gets so much better because of it.
But I suppose that's a learned thing, isn't it? You may not trust them initially, but as you said, you built it up. I mean, I I've been NaNoWriMing, and I'm an ML for NaNoWriMo. I have been for a couple of years now. And I've been giving feedback to others, and they give feedback to me, and it is quite hard sometimes. But I help another author sometimes as a beta reader. He's an American guy.
Yeah.
He's a vet that does sci-fi and recently, but he also does military thrillers. And he gave me and a group of others like the manuscript for like a real last-minute beta read and come back with the other week that was released like yesterday. And I remember I was just going through, and you just pick up sort of some of the usual odds and sods, and you ask a couple of questions about terminology. And there was one thing he was doing, and I was just looking at it, and I went and looked on a map, and I went back and I just put a comment on the document and said, so if they're doing this, they're going to do that, right? And the next day I got back fuck, I didn't see that. Thanks for that. I know what's going on 5 now. And it's just because you got so into it. And I just sort of stopped and I thought, but that's, and if you look on the map, and where one thing was happening was like, I don't know, about 150 miles from something else, which like in Asia is not much at all. And I was just like, so if they're moving up that way, and those people are there, then they're going to bump into each other, or these guys are going to relieve them. And you were like, that just didn't click. And you realise that you're so into it that your brain just shuts off stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, all the time. You know what? I know that there's going to be things that don't make sense in my book, but don't tell me. Don't tell me, because without a doubt, there will be. There will be so much stuff. Like, I've had questions from my editors like, hang on, why wouldn't they just like turn left? Because you've just said that there's a road there. I'm like, oh crap, yeah, that's so true. Like, and even the magic system, because there's a whole world that's been made up. It's so difficult. And like the Bible that I have that comes with the world I've created is like huge.
That was a question.
And I have to resort to this glossary.
That was a question I was going to ask you about a world creation. So did you sit down beforehand and sort of create, topography, how the world sort of set out, the magic system and things like that? Was that your first stop?
So the first thing I'd say that I had about the book at all was just, I just knew that there was blue sand dunes and white bark trees, and that's all I knew about the book. And that was the first thing that I wrote about the whole story, was that I knew that it had sand dunes and white trees. And then I proceeded to write a story. And I did the world building within the story. I did like that thing where I just let my fingers just go and see what happened. And then I tried to sell that book. And it was only until like kind of my first edit letter that my editors were like, so what is the political structure? What is this, and this? And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I need to develop everything. And I had done some, because you can't, when you're making up words, you can't not track them. And I actually had to submit a glossary for the end of the first book, for the end pages. And it was, originally the glossary was 16 pages. And I panicked. I was like, hang on, what did George R.R. Martin do? His was 40 pages. So I was like, okay, at least I've got some room to play with. Because then I've got the same publishing house. So I was like, well, they did it for him, so they've got to do it for me. And I was like, I've got 16 pages, but I did cut it down to 8 pages. By the way, I'm not suggesting I am George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, you are. Totally.
I was just like,
we're gonna see an HBO series very soon.
Someone's going to cut this together, and it's just going to be me comparing myself to George R. R. Martin. So anyway, in the end, I had a really, really, really long document with everything. I could tell you the 7 species that circles one of the forts of birds. I can tell you literally the hair color of every single 250 characters. Like it's an epic book on epic proportions, and the world that comes with it is big. But yeah,
well, as long as you can finish your books, then you're a step ahead of Mr. Martin there, because he doesn't like finishing his books. He likes leaving them at the end and not bothering. So
but we're not better.
We're not better.
I mean, the way you're talking, it reminds me of something that someone posted once in one of the writers groups I follow, that said there are 2 kinds of stories. There's the story that comes with a plan and it follows the plan. It's ruthlessly beaten to make sure it does. And there's the ones that are a little bit feral. And if you don't keep an eye on them, suddenly you find yourself writing something that you never planned in the first place. But hey, it works.
Yeah, exactly. I think it works. Who knows? People might hate it. We'll see.
Well, someone likes it. They threw money at you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, one thing I wanted to ask is like, obviously when you got that publishing deal and you phoned up your boss saying bye, how did that conversation go down?
Where were you working, by the way?
He said, I was working at Pinewood Film Studios.
Oh, wow.
And my boss was very lovely. He congratulated me. He was very proud of me. He's very happy for me. And I just remember very, very clearly, he said, but you haven't signed the contract yet. As if that would kind of stop the whole process. And I said, no, but I've been told that it can take up to 5 months, and I'm not sticking around 5 months for the contract. So I ended up staying for like another 4 months with the company anyway. But yeah, they were really fantastic about the whole thing. Just so happy for me, I guess.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Living the dream, basically. Living the dream.
Yeah.
Some of us schmoes have to do an office job, and some of you go out and do things that you dream to do. Does it get to a point where, because I find that when I enjoy a lot of things. I'm a super nerd. If you could see, you see in the sort of live stream, all the nerdery that surrounds me and stuff. So I've got a lot of hobbies and things like that. But if I'm forced to do something, I stop enjoying it. So how do you get yourself past that sort of? Because obviously you enjoy writing, but if it's a job, it becomes a task sometimes. Is there any way you get yourself past that?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head. It is really suddenly when someone's like, "This is your job," you're like, "Well, I don't want to do it. I just don't." It's like it's so hard. And the thing, what I'll say about being an author, although it sounds like the dream and everyone is, wants to be a full-time author, I'd say it comes with a whole new type of anxiety, in that you don't ever stop thinking about your book. You will wake up at 1 a.m. You'll wake up at 2 a.m. You don't stop thinking about it. And it's not like when I was writing and had the day job, because the day job, I wouldn't think about the book. And then I'd be like, all right, evening, I'll think about the book. Whereas now it's just constant, which is, it can be fun, but it's also all encompassing. The one thing that I found that has been a huge help is just the community that I've found quite recently within the fantasy world. So Tasha Suri lives really close to me, writer of The Jasmine Throne. Just some fantastic people, Samantha Shannon, Kat Dunn, Kate Dillon, people that I've really come to know in the community that has just been fantastic. And they keep me motivated, and their support has been amazing. And kept me going. And I think that's kind of the best thing. But it is really hard to read, actually. I found it really tough going from being, writing for fun to like writing as a job, and then suddenly having to read. And because you do get sent a lot of proofs, which are like early copies of books, and you want to read and be excited, but it's so hard when you're just constantly drafting or editing to then enjoy a book. But I'm getting better at that. But it has been tough.
It reminds me of, do you know Adam Savage that did Mythbusters?
Yes.
He has his YouTube channel. A couple of months back, he did a Q&A video, and one of the things people asked him was, when your hobby becomes your job, how does that affect it? And he said something very similar. He said, it's now your job. It's no longer something you do for fun. It has an awful lot of stress wrapped around it. You need to find something else to decompress with, because if you try and make it your hobby and your job, then there's a pretty good chance that either you'll end up taking lots and lots of pills, or it won't be your job anymore, because you won't be able to take it seriously the right way, because so many other people will be chasing you around and leaning on you, throwing money at you, demanding money back.
So what is it you do to? So obviously you mentioned your PlayStation. So is that sort of one of your sort of ghetto? Is that your sort of your box that you go to when you just want to sort of zone out of everything writing? What's your thing?
Yeah, definitely PlayStation.
So what do you play?
So I've actually just started Uncharted for the first time.
Okay.
And I finished the original Skyrim because obviously I've got to play something 10 years late. And it was really difficult to play something that old, I'm telling you. It was so difficult. And I play all the Assassin's Creed. I really enjoyed Valhalla. And Horizon, and the new Horizon coming out in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to. So I do use PlayStation. I watch a lot of TV. Just finished Hawkeye again. Was very late to the table on that one.
Lovely.
Oh, that was awesome. I
Really
love that
good.
series.
Yeah, really good.
It was just, I wish I'd watched it over Christmas because it was so Christmassy, and I was like, now I'm not in the Christmas vibe.
Yeah, I hate that.
So
when
it's
Christmas,
too late with that one.
Yeah, when Christmas stuff happens after Christmas, you just feel like, oh, it's over now. Christmas is over. Get over it.
Yeah.
See,
I've got no
it
joy.
made me really
I don't want joy.
Yeah, true.
It actually made me really nostalgic because a couple of years back, me and my wife now did our honeymoon in New York for Thanksgiving. So we left just before the tree went up down at the Rockefeller Center. So it was really quite bizarre, sort of seeing all these things, thinking, I actually recognise that from somewhere. Shit,
Yeah.
But without all the scary Russians in tracksuits and explosions.
Yeah. Oh, Florence Pugh, though, she's just so great.
Perfect as Yelena. Yeah.
Literally so great.
Stop making me like you. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
I know.
What did you think of Black Widow then? I'm assuming you saw Black Widow.
Yeah, I did. I just really wanted Florence Pugh 90 minutes on the scene. I didn't want anything else. I did enjoy it. But I also felt because she was dead, like I'd moved on from the story a little bit. So I didn't want to go back in time. But anyway, it was fine. I watched it. They all kind of blur into one as well now.
It's 5 years too late, wasn't it? If it'd been like before Infinity War, it would have felt more.
Yeah.
More grounded.
It's like she's gone.
Yeah.
She's gone. I'm over it.
I think almost in some ways as well, though, if they found a way to have it out closer to Hawkeye, because obviously there's a lot of back references where he's looking back, and obviously the whole complication with Florence Pugh's as Elena coming after him and everything. I think it would have worked better in a lot of ways, because people that are into it and were watching both closer together, it would have had more impact emotionally, because you'd have some investment in it. Apart from it's 5 years ago, god damn her, she's dead now. But actually having something to nail it together. Yeah. But I suppose when you're trying to juggle streaming services and movie releases and epidemics and stuff, something's got to give, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I watched The Eternals recently as well.
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah, that was good.
Oh,
right.
It was.
What were your views? Okay, what did you think?
It was a film I watched. My goodness, it was. What I loved was how diverse the cast was. Like, incredible in the fact that they actually got, deaf characters. It was just so impressive.
Yeah.
Like what they tried to do there, and that I was like, 10 out of 10. Plot wise, I just, the whole yeeting into the sun thing, I just wasn't keen on that.
He is Icarus. He was Icarus after all, so.
I know, I get the metaphor, but do you need to ram it down my throat? I just,
They had a spare sledgehammer laying around. They had to use it.
Yeah, I like that he, and apologies if anybody's not watched it yet, but have you not seen it yet, Pete?
No, not yet. No.
Oh, right.
In that case, you can't
Go ahead, please.
Are you sure? I don't will.
Be my guest.
I like that he isn't the shining beacon of freedom. That sort of kind of at the start, like, it's that twist that he's doing it for his belief and stuff, that he is a bit of a shithead in the end, and I kind of like that. I think because there were so many characters, it was quite hard to expedite their what's the word? It was quite hard to tell each of their stories in one movie. Yeah. So it did seem slightly rushed in certain parts, but I thought all in all, I quite enjoyed it. I quite liked it, and Madden's character as Icarus, I thought was good because him turning basically bad guy who sort of regrets him, at the end, sort of thing. But I liked that. I thought that was pretty good.
I still maintain that my favourite character was the Indian PA with the camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant to have like a sidekick that was a person of colour. I was like, that's the first time that I've ever seen this kind of character that's a side character that's always, the one with the funny little quips, being a person of colour. I was like, that's the first time I've seen that. And that was really refreshing.
And they didn't write him off either. There are times when he became part of the conversation as like the mortal in the room. And the others had to kind of respect that. As his fully
authentic self. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are other times where you're like, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah.
Have you seen Shang-Chi, by the way?
Oh, I loved it.
Excellent. Yep. Okay.
Loved it.
I agree completely. Yeah, I mean, I've come watching again and again because it's really immersed itself in Chinese culture. All the background information, like the tanker fish in the background, which is good feng shui, and like I was watching them going, that is actual kung fu. They've brought in people that actually know kung fu. And I love the fact that for the first 3/4 of the film, Shang-Chi's superpower is just being very good at kung fu.
Yeah.
I
really enjoyed it, though. They did that Marvel thing where everything glows blue and sort of has sort of kind of lightning around it and stuff. It's like, make normal weapon, make it blue, and sort of energy field and stuff. And it's
I still like that it's no longer the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's the Marvel Wong Universe. Because he's just everywhere.
It really is.
So what films would you recommend? What are your go-to films or TV shows?
Oh, God. My go-to films. I do watch pretty much every superhero movie, although I wish that I didn't. Honestly, I feel like I wish there's so much more room for other stuff in my brain, and it's just like Marvel 90% of the time. I really loved, just because I really recently rewatched it, Arrival. Just because I thought it was a really interesting, different alien movie. Yes, it's really old, but I really enjoyed it. I tend to like my sci-fi anyway. Things like Interstellar, although not Christopher Nolan's best, but I did enjoy it. And if I had to be really honest, like my go-to film is probably The Lion King. Just because it's there's hurt, but there's also a lot of joy in it.
Yeah.
I saw some really. It was something about The Lion King, and it's just like it was after his dad dies and stuff, and says what the hyenas do with lions that they kill, and it shows this guy was saying they ate him, they ate his dad because there's a lion skull in the den, in Scar's den and stuff, and it's just like that's what happens. They ate him. So it's just there. Thanks, Disney. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for ruining my childhood.
Have you seen Matrix Resurrections?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of it?
And that it was a Christmas love story.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Matrix film.
No.
It was a Christmas love story. It could have been in any single world. It was just like I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it was also very tired, and I felt that they were tired. They were tired doing stunts. They were tired directing, and I was tired watching them. I was like, even the jokes about his back and stuff, I was like, yeah, like, you are tired. Just go lie down. Lie down. You don't need to make this film. Although I did enjoy it. It was a love story, and that's all it was.
Talking about Keanu Reeves, I've just watched with my girlfriend Mira, the John, because she's not seen any of the John Wick films. And I'm just like hammered the last John Wick. I love the John Wick films. They're so good.
Yeah, they're fun.
They are
so
so
fun.
good. And do you know what I love about it is the fact that, one, that he does his own stunts and stuff. He sort of does a lot of the fighting and gunplay himself, but also that as the films go on, because they are sort of meant to be chronological after each other, like the next day or a couple of days later and stuff, that you can see, obviously, because he's getting older in real life, that he's becoming slower, and obviously with all the injuries and stuff he's sustaining within the films, that's why he's getting slower and stuff like that. And it's like, I like that. I think it's really good. But yeah, love John Wick. So good. The fight scenes are just like out of this world. I just love it. So good.
Yeah. So
I just love Keanu Reeves, to be honest.
He's such a nice guy. He's such a nice guy, though. Like,
he's just like literally the nicest.
He really is.
I don't know him, but I know that he's the nicest.
Yeah, I see like
don't pay me. Just make sure the guys get paid properly. It's not a problem. And let's give them some motorbikes as well.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of that stuff, and I take some of the stuff about him with a pinch of salt, because it's in these days it's too easy for somebody to go, yes, he donated 50 billion zillion pounds to charity because he's Keanu Reeves and stuff. But when you see interviews with him, he's very humble. He's very nice. You can see when he takes photographs of people and stuff, he always gives them space, and he doesn't he's not on them, and it's just sort of you can tell that he's a swell fellow, and if you ever did talk to him, that he would be a nice chap. Whereas you can tell, like, I've met a few people doing conventions and things, and I kind of wish I'd never met them because they were assholes. I'm just like, you're not what.
Yeah, 90% of celebrities, because I used to do a lot of red carpets, doing the press on the red carpets when I was working in marketing, and easily 90% of them are just assholes.
Yeah, it's so. I understand.
They do say don't meet your heroes. And now you know why.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. Like, I remember John Joe telling us about meeting, was it Gillian Anderson? Was it?
Mm-hmm.
And her.
No, she's nice.
Is she? He says you
go first.
He said he had a really bad experience with her when he was trying to sort of, she was. I don't know, she was taking a signing, I think he was signing in a convention or something, and she wouldn't let photographs be taken, and she would only let, no post photographs, she would only sign something, and that was it, no talks, no nothing, you just, like, factory, letting them go off and stuff.
I feel like that was a bad day for her, because a friend of mine has a selfie with her, and apparently she was gorgeous. She is, like, one of my biggest celebrity crushes.
Really?
She's just, I love her.
See, you've watched Sex Education, then?
Yes. Of course.
But have you watched The Crown? Because that makes things very complicated for me.
Yes, I do agree. I do agree. Yeah, The Crown was a straight off turn off, but still, she was in it. So.
Oh, that's right. She played Margaret Thatcher, didn't she?
Yep. Yes. We don't talk about that. No, I don't want to think about that, because that makes things very complicated inside my head.
So when people say, when you're trying, it's like, think of Margaret Thatcher. Oh no, it's like that thing in what's it in not even Ace Ventura. What is it? What's the spy?
Margaret
Thatcher on a cold day.
Johnny English.
No, not Johnny English. But Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
Yeah, it's just like Margaret Thatcher on a cold day. Margaret Thatcher on a cold day. And you've got Gillian Anderson in your head, and you're like, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, so there are some generally lovely celebrities out there, but they're equally less so. I mean, interviewed Lee Majors. He's a really lovely guy. I mean, he's in his 80s now, and he's still got stone to him. He really is keep going and kicking ass. And I mean, yeah, he really was just an absolute nice guy to chat to. And also Virginia Hay, who played Zan in Farscape. You meet her at one convention, you have a chat with her, a quick interview, move on. And you can meet her a couple of years later, and she will remember you. She'll like, oh, hi, how are you? Been a few years, Peter, how are you? It's like going, okay, the millions of people you must meet. Yeah, and they can remember their names instantly.
But that was when you had the long red hair, wasn't it? So that probably helped.
What do you mean had?
Oh, the long bright red hair.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a little bit more towards the normal at the moment.
I don't do normal.
Well,
I said towards. I said towards.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, but there's others that were, how can I put this diplomatically, standoffish.
Just say they're assholes.
yeah, but I get this,
Yeah.
so because I think we've had this discussion before on one of the podcasts and stuff. So it's like I reckon you will get people who they've had a bad day. So like maybe John Joe met her on a bad day, and you can understand if you've got a lot of people in your face all the time. And you're just gonna go, fuck you guys. I'm done today. I'm not dealing with this situation.
Or when someone's made the same joke for the 1800th time that week.
Yeah.
Thinking that they're the first one, and you're just like, I've not slept in like 5 days properly. I've got a crappy hotel room, and everyone keeps on telling me off because I'm not supposed to be taking selfies because they charge extra for that.
It's like. There's one guy who I just think like there's Toby Maguire, obviously, who played obviously Spider-Man, and actually I'm not sure, has everybody seen Spider-Man, by the way, the new Spider-Man?
Yes.
Oh,
No,
Pete,
my daughter has.
What's going on,
Yeah.
Pete?
My daughter would
Wait, hang on, you've not seen it?
My daughter went to see it without me. She went with her friends.
Do you know how I know? Do you know how I know
rude.
this? Because in the last two podcasts, if you listen back to them, Pete mentions this.
Yes, because I have not let this go. And also, my daughter, no less, is going to do an escape room with her friends, and I'm not invited.
You're not cool anymore, Dad. You're not cool anymore.
I told you this earlier. You need to explain to her that while you are sad that you can't share this with her, you're looking forward to sharing it with your grandchildren and her, and you accept that she is maturing and needs to spend time with her friends.
Dude, just go on
and
your
that
own.
you're just going to go and slash her wrist in the corner. Could she bring some bandages?
Go on your own. I went on my own because nobody else.
Yeah.
All my mates and stuff had seen it or didn't want to go. I just went right, so I just took myself off on my own and stuff, and I just watched it. And But anyway, so Toby Maguire, Spider-Man, and you see all these videos of him. Now there's a film. I can't remember the name of the film now. It's about poker games, like a celebrity poker games.
Oh, another one, yeah. Molly's Game.
Molly's Game, yeah. And the guy who it's not Cena. He's the actor who plays it. He's in Juno, and he's in Superbad, and he's in.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I just can't remember his name.
What's his name? Anyway,
Michael.
Sarah. Is it Michael Cera?
Michael Cera, yeah.
Sarah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. His character in that is apparently meant to be Toby Maguire, and it's meant to be. And I was like, no way, Toby Maguire's an asshole. And then it's like you see all, and then I got that in my head, and now every time I see him scowling at a camera or shouting at the paparazzi and stuff, I go, he is an asshole. He is an asshole.
He is.
But yeah, so apparently that's him. That's the character who Michael Cera plays is Toby Maguire. But now I just see him on these videos, and he's everybody else is sort of being happy towards the cameras or people and stuff, and he's just scowling at them and shouting at them and stuff. I'm like, you are him. You are an asshole. Not that I know. I'm just saying from TV and stuff. But yeah.
So who was your favourite celebrity that you've met, Sarah?
Oh, that's a short list.
Oh, dear.
I feel like gosh, it's actually hard. I do remember doing, I don't actually know whether I can say this, but I do remember doing the first Avengers and thinking Scarlett Johansson was nice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
yeah, I think she said something nice to me. She must have said something nice, and then I just remembered that because that was a long time ago. Yeah, that's probably it. To be honest, it's really tough because the days that they have are, quite brutal in that they do junkets, so they're doing back-to-back interviews. So I've heard Tom Holland's really lovely. Give him a few years, but he's really lovely now. And it just can be really tough.
Henry Cavill
people
seems
want
like
everything from. Oh, Henry Cavill, interesting.
Ooh,
you say he seems nice?
He seems like a nice chap, is he not? Don't ruin it for me. Is he?
Ruin it.
No, don't do it. Is he? Okay. Go on.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, right. It just like every interview I've seen, he seems pretty sort of kind of nice, super nerdy, just like, quite stoic in a way, but also very sort of kind of polite. He's just, I've never seen anything bad about him, and
Yeah, and it is good when they're like super professional and they're really just like generally nice to work with. So yeah, maybe he is nice.
I hope so. I thought you were going to throw out. Yeah, I was like, well, there was that time when he did this. And I was like, no.
No, I remember that interview with Channel 4 that Robert Downey Jr. did ahead of Iron Man 2, I think. And literally, Robert Downey Jr., I think they asked him about like.
He walked out.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, but
I think do you
think he was being too probing? What was the fella, the Channel 4, what's his name? Name's not good.
Oh my god.
I know who you mean. I kind of.
Christian Gary Murphy?
Yes, Christian Gary Murphy. I don't know if he was overstepped the mark slightly, to be fair.
So he was told not to say anything ask about drugs. It was in the rider to not speak about drugs, and then he asked.
Right. Okay. So he deliberately crossed a specific line, and Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So yeah.
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 Because the thing is, everything you hear about Robert Downey Jr. says that he really has stepped up since he got over those issues, and he's really put, like he encouraged all the stars to work together, and he's taken hits and stuff. And you do know there are some people who are just going to try and catch him on a bad day or punch him in the sensitive spots, just because they want to be able to be the ones that got him not being a nice guy. And it's got to be pretty horrible, hasn't it, being in that position, always knowing it might be coming.
Yeah, and I think when you get that big, interviews tend to like have that kind of loaded feeling anyway. It's like they're trying to get that next like super click. So it's not always in the they're most likely not in the best interest of. They're always probing, they're not trying to. So to be fair to most celebrities, it is really hard when you're being asked all those really super personal questions. So. This is why I didn't do well on the marketing side. Yeah, exactly.
Because these days everything's out of context or is taken in weird context because it's so easy to cut stuff together now.
Well, that's it. Yeah. That's the one thing that sort of it frustrates me about modern society in that people can't be better. They're always their lowest common denominator. So they're like Kevin Hart, for example. They said to him he couldn't do the Oscars because of some bad tweets that he did many years ago and stuff. And for me personally, first, I believe in redemption. I believe in you becoming a better person. If I thought about some of the stuff I said when I was younger, or if I had Twitter and stuff, which I would have said bad stuff, and if that came back to haunt me over and over and over again, it's just like, so I can't be a better person. Even a few years ago, I'd say even now, there's stuff I said a couple of years ago, I look back on it now and just go, why did I say that? It just sort of like I'm not that person anymore. And for that, things that keep on being dragged up and sort of it's like, well, so I can't be a better person. I can't redeem myself. I can't think because you're going to keep on bringing this stuff back. And it's a shame because people go, oh, he said that 20 years ago. And it's just like, yeah, but 20 years ago or even 2 years ago, it's like people can change. You should give them the benefit of the doubt.
Moving forward, Sarah, what does the future have planned for you? What have you got lined up? I mean, obviously you're working on your third book now, editor the second. Is there another book in the line afterwards? Are you working on ideas for book 4 or a new trilogy?
So at the moment I am also doing a master's in African studies, which is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. So I went back to school. I am at least 10 years older than the next student, but it's fine because I look like a child. It's so funny. They like always just ask me ridiculous. Like when they found out that I went to university when fees were £3,000, they like nearly fainted. They're like, "How old are you?"
I went to university when it was free.
Oh my god!
You bastard!
That was weird.
I got a bursary when I was at college, like an actual bursary with no fees and stuff. Yeah.
What? No interest? What?
Yeah, I think my student loan was like I went in 2000, so my student loan was like £3,000. No, I had to pay £3,000 a year. I think was sort of what I.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, £3,000.
Lower.
Yeah, that was me too.
Lower. I was a little bit ahead of you guys.
Yeah.
And I was living at home.
So you're at university studying African studies. Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's been really exciting and very, very difficult because I realised like having a brain to write essays and having a brain to write book, just I don't have that brain. Yeah. I'm trying, but it's really difficult. But it has been really enjoyable. I'm using kind of that experience to think about and work on my next trilogy, which I have to kind of put a proposal together and then send to, because no one's bought that, so that's going to be fresh. And that's the thing, it's like, you know, you have to be on a cycle because you have to sell the next book in order to be able to pay the bills. So it's like, okay, even though my first book's not even out, I have to start thinking about the next step, which is exciting in its own way. So yeah, I'm ready to kind of, which is mad as well to think that ready to move on from these characters when my book's not even out yet, but I am ready for the next kind of, because I do think that you just get better and better as a writer. Like even looking back at my proof pages, I'm like, whoa, you wrote that sentence, that's terrible. You know, so every day I feel like I'm getting better. So I'm really excited for the future.
Would you do sci-fi or would you stay with fantasy?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think sci-fi is always on the cards for me. I love reading it. So yeah, I think it's something that I might explore.
Sorry, with back to the African studies, you know, what does it entail? Is it history, social dynamics? What's it about?
So it's so diverse. So one of the modules that I took last term, it had a longer title, but I'm basically going to say it was just about genocide. Every week was a new genocide in Africa, and you just learnt about the kind of the legal and the transitional justice that happened within those systems of oppression, how the world dealt with that / didn't, and how it always just goes back to colonization. And then, for example, one I'm doing this term is contemporary African literature. So that's very much on the art side of things. I'm reading fantastic writings from across the continent. And then there's more kind of humanities-based learning about cartography and how in of itself, you know, Africa is a construct and it doesn't really exist. And it's been really fascinating. So pretty much everything. Little bits of everything, yeah.
Sounds interesting. Like I did the military history degree, and we sort of kind of did imperial stuff. We did a bit of everything, to be honest. It was quite a broad sort of brush, but you don't really go into the depth of that. It's literally like, you know, it is dates and battles and things like that, and it's quite easy to sort of dehumanize things because it's literally just stats and no context and stuff. And it's only now I think I go back to things now to sort of get a sort of on a granular level to a lot of these things, because you sort of kind of it's too easy just to sort of accept history as numbers on a page, and not sort of look at it more sort of more granularly. And that's sort of that sounds quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I went to university at back in the 90s and studied engineering now because that was where my career was gone before. I had enough of it and went into journalism. But yeah, we never studied anything to do with the culture or the background or social. I mean, just the impact of geoengineering or civil engineering on the surrounding area. No, because we just look at you can build a dam there, let's build a dam, without considering the impact it has upon the wider society. And I mean, since I've been getting into journalism and writing about new developments, you have to really consider the socio-cultural impact that technology has upon the surrounding area.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think I think only recently, in the past even 10 years, that people have really started to consider, no, you really need to look at the culture of the people that you are affecting.
Yeah, when you think back to how we studied history at school, it is such a really weird little bubble of just here's some acceptable bits. Don't worry about the difficult stuff. That's something that you might cover if you go into history. And I did IT at uni. I did software engineering. So it's only later on, as I've always been a voracious reader. As I stopped just reading the novels and stuff and started looking into stuff around it, if you're reading military thrillers or stuff like that, and you think about the context and how that happened and why that happened, and you start thinking it's not quite so much fun anymore, is it?
Yeah. Well, see, I think that's what it needs to be. And I've said this numerous times before. History should be the uncomfortable truth. I think it's very easy. And I come from Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland is rife with romanticized and sort of one-sided history on both sides of the spectrum. They both have it. Nationalists, unionists, they're very much the same. It's just they've got one way they want to look at things because it suits them, and it doesn't sort of make them feel bad about what they've done. The sort of nationalists are always the oppressed. The unionists are always sort of bigging up this, that, and the other, and it's very much a case of there's more to it, and you need to read the stuff that's uncomfortable. And I made a point of reading stuff that I didn't want to read. Now, I was brought up in a certain way, and I was like, I had certain beliefs, and then I got to the point where it's just like, I need to question that belief, and I need to understand that there's more to it. And so I now actively look out for things that go against what I believe, to the point where I add people on my Facebook page if I know who have counter views on me, just because if I can have a debate with them, then at least I can have a two sides to a coin, as it were. And I just think people need to understand the uncomfortable truth, because once they get that and they normalize these sort of things, then history becomes very powerful, and you can learn from it, and you can become a better person. Like I would say I'm a better person for understanding my history properly, not on a one-sided way. I always look at it from a broad sort of way. And I think people, if they did that, it would be better for society. If they just went, you know what, a lot of shit has happened, and I'm not saying, I always say you learn from history, don't dwell on it. So you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your forebears' mistakes, and you make things better going forward. But you need to learn about that first. You need to understand that first. And if you don't, then you're just going to carry on making the same mistakes over and over and over again.
This is an argument I had with several people about the thing about the statue toppling and things like that. Whereas I said in some ways it would be better to focus less on protesting and knocking things over and naming them, more on putting that information in place and encouraging people to learn why and what it was about and how that impacts us now and think about things.
I think that's the thing, though, that history in itself is subjective. It's history and truth, they're not the same thing. And they should be. But there's power. There's a power dynamic in play. And who is telling that story, and how is that being told? And how is, you can say people need to learn more, but it's all on what they're learning, and it's how do you even control that is the question. And sometimes you do have to. Sorry, go ahead.
No. My apologies. I interrupted you. You carry on.
No, I was just going to say sometimes you have to break the system with acts of violence is not the right word, but with acts of maybe drama in order to draw attention to things. But yeah, education is such an important discussion, and education and the power of history needs to be assessed.
Yeah, I remember about 10 plus years ago, more than 10 years ago, when Xbox were first developing the Kinect motion sensor. I think it was Kinect anyway. Basically, they were doing a first live demonstration, and they discovered that because the Kinect had been developed by white guys in America and had been tested on white guys in America, it couldn't detect black skin or dark coloured skin.
Yeah.
And that was just, they'd inadvertently invented a racist piece of technology. And because they just basically got focused on what's called weird methodologies, Western educated, industrialized, rich democratic nations.
Yeah.
And they hadn't considered looking at the wider global aspect. And that I think that was really the groundbreaking moment of like, people realized, no, we need to think on more than just our initial, immediate strands. We need to look globally. What impact will this have?
Didn't they have the same problem with facial recognition?
Yeah,
some of the big facial recognition
that was an issue. Also, one thing as well is more recently, self-driving cars have algorithms now for minimizing crash. Basically, what you have is a non-avoidable crash where no matter what happens, a crash is going to occur. So it takes it's decision based. So what do you go for? If you're going to crash into a wall, do you crash into an adult? Do you crash into a pram? Or do you crash into an animal? Which one do you go for? Now, obviously, you want to minimize, impact on the people, impact on the passengers, impact on everyone else. But if you're going to choice between crashing into a hedge or crashing into an animal or crashing into an animal, which do you go for? And there is kind of in some countries, certain animals have have greater weighting, but that's because it's been invented in Germany. That's not been really considered. Look at running that else globally.
Wait, so they would sooner crash into an animal than into a hedge?
Well, yeah, but there are certain animals that have cultural weighting in the area, and it's you need to kind of consider each culture's own sense of what is right in their indicators, and how do you define that you can't just kind of mandate globally the cultural weightings. You have to kind of apply the cultural weightings for each particular area, if that makes sense. And we got a little bit off track there, so I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, soapbox time.
Yeah, we sorry, my fault. We sort of kind of went off on a grand tangent.
No, I was enjoying it. I was about to jump in with that stuff, but I thought, you know what? No, I can't do it. It's 10:30. I can't talk about the vaccine.
Oh no, that's right. We can, that. Well, that's it. I'm assuming you are pro-vaccine.
Yes,
that's okay.
I am absolutely pro-vaccine, but I think there is talking about education and talking about different cultures, ethnicities, races, education around that. It's such a tricky, when we're talking about. You were talking about the Kinect and how you didn't see black skin. There is a history of things having not been tested on black people, or only being tested on black people and them not knowing that they're being given syphilis. And there's there's loads of situations in which that happened, or where they fertilized black women, or there's all sorts of things. But it's that education. It's breaking that down is not as easy as putting out social media ads to those communities and going, get the vaccine. There's so much you need to think about the implications of all of that education. It is very frustrating to me because I'm like, just get a vaccine. You are not a scientist.
So is this so you basically, from what I understand, you're saying that because there is historic grievance from government and a health body saying, testing things without people knowing, that certain ethical backgrounds would be less likely to get vaccinated because of the lack of trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people I know that have, their grandparents have been tested on, or one went into prison, came out without uterus. These are situations of people that I know of, and of course they're not going to trust the governments of the countries they're in.
Trust is based on experience, isn't it? And at the end of the day, if your experience of being told the government is right resulted in more harm than good, then it's very hard for you to undo that, I suppose, without a lot of proof for the other way around. And that's not always easy these days, because the echo chambers effects and various other problems with modern media and social media, that can actually make it worse.
And WhatsApp, the chain forward messaging that's happening within certain communities, it's just detrimental.
I can buy into, I know some people who are iffy about it because of they're not fully buying into it being tested and stuff. It's not like they don't think there's conspiracy and stuff. I'm just very. I know a lot of conspiracy theorists. There's a lot of Northern Ireland. A lot of Northern Ireland is literally there's 5G being pumped into people's blood. The government sort of the whole thing. It's just the government can't even sort out bloody lockdown. The government can't even get toilet paper on the shelves. How are they supposed to be? How is it meant to be this big ass conspiracy? And it's just it's not. It's not, and it's just it bogs my. I can understand people being reticent. It's a new. Technically, it's not new because
Yes, I know.
Technically, it's not new.
And we know that.
Yeah, but it's not. It's been for a long time. It's been. I think in the 1920s they were sort of testing vaccines for it based on on chickens and things like that. But so it's been there. It's just that. I can understand a bit of reticence based on it's a new thing. We're not sure. But when people are just no, the government are trying to track us, and it's all it's people.
No.
The one thing that
this is how they track you.
Yeah, exactly. So you got a phone. You've got a phone. You're on Facebook right now. If they want to know what you're doing,
How does the government know what I'm doing? You took a picture of your dinner last night, your breakfast this morning. You took 5 pictures on the live stream while you're walking to work.
Search history.
I remember sitting there having an argument with my old drummer, and I managed to get him to get vaccinated and stuff, but he was just why do I need this NHS app? The government are going to track me. It's dude, you've got a phone. If they're going to track you, they're already tracking you. It's if they wanted an inclined to find out what a drum teacher wanted to do, then they already know what's happening and stuff. So it's you don't need, if they're that way inclined, they know. In the end, I work for solicitors and stuff, and I track people who are committing fraud and stuff, and I can find people and stuff. So if if you want to find somebody, you can find somebody with certain tools and stuff. So having the NHS app isn't going to make you more sort of susceptible to espionage and stuff. It's not gonna happen.
Oh dear.
All right. Okay. Well, on that bombshell, on that sort of nice end, we probably talk about vaccinations every week, and we have probably done for the last few years. It's sort of a thing that happens and stuff. It's one of those. Trump's not there anymore, so we can't go in. Well, he's technically sort of in and around, but he's not there anymore, so we can't sort of kind of moan about him. So we'll anti-vaxxers.
You've got Boris Johnson there.
That is true, though. I'm kind of hoping he's going to sort of make his way out very soon.
I mean, Boris Johnson isn't evil like Trump was. He's just incompetent. He's too incompetent to be evil.
He's just a sort of, I don't know.
Buffoon.
He's a buffoon.
I think but I think he makes people think he's a buffoon. That's where he's actually really smart. Because I think that everyone thinks that he's stupid, but I think he's more evil than we think.
I think it's more that he's limited. He's very limited by his own self-interest and everything. He doesn't look that far ahead. So he can think about stuff, but his frame of reference is so focused on what's best for him and what will keep him where he is just that little bit longer.
Prime example, Brexit, when he had the letter, 1 for, 1 against.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude, that's so calculated. That's so bad.
Yeah. Everyone thinks he believes in. No, he believes in Boris Johnson and what he can do to convince people to keep him going and on that gravy train that little bit longer.
Yeah.
And how many fridges he can hide in.
True.
And I think
that's true,
it's stuff like that, and then that's why people are sort of like, oh, I don't trust the government. It's like, well, 1, you voted for them, but 2, it's like, it's like, I don't trust the government. You voted for them. You voted for them.
Oh God, yeah, I've been having that argument with people since the whole EU elections thing.
Yeah, about 6 years now. Yeah.
Anyway, this is going to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
Let's cease to be about some amazing authorship and high fantasy and turn into just us moaning about stupid people. Anyway, so books. So when is it out now? When's it out?
Nope, 23rd of June.
23rd of June.
23rd of June. And what's the title? What's it called?
The Final Strife.
Okay.
It's out. It can be pre-ordered. Pre-orders make such a difference, and it can be pre-ordered from pretty much anywhere.
Excellent.
Already been pre-ordered, in fact.
Oh, amazing.
And are you going to be doing any conventions to promote it? FantasyCon?
Yes, I will be. I haven't got my schedule yet, but I know that I will. I'm probably going to go to EastCon and go up to Edinburgh in June and FantasyCon, etc. So, and I might be going to New York. So we'll see. There will be probably announcements on my website and stuff. So.
Okay. When's Easter? Where is EastCon this year?
17th, 18th, 19th of April.
Sorry, where? Where? No. Where is it?
Oh, Heathrow.
Heathrow. Bummer. No, I can't make that one.
I know.
Heathrow.
Yeah.
Where are you based, by the way?
Not far from Heathrow. I'm in northwest London.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's actually convenient for you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's not a bad area. I've worked up there an awful lot. The company I work for currently is based out of Park Royal. But I work
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I'm Harrow in the Hills, not too far.
Oh, nice.
Not too far from our old offices as well. Yeah. Cool.
Right. Cool.
That's
we'll leave it there.
random wondering.
Some normal.
Yeah.
Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. What was the date of the book again? Sorry. June.
The Final Strife.
The date,
and it's
sorry?
June 23rd.
23rd.
June 23rd.
So June 23rd, everybody. Check it out. Pre-order. Pre-order is always good. Thanks a lot, Sarah. I appreciate it. To everybody, thank you very much for joining us. As always, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good night, everybody.
Mark Canty.
Take care, everyone.
And Saara El-Arifi.
Thanks, everyone. So nice to see you.
Bye.